All right, today we are with Dr. William Gaudelli, who is chair of the Department of Arts and Humanities and professor of Social Studies and Education and Teachers College, Columbia University. Thank you for joining the interview.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So today we will discuss two main notions. One is global citizenship education, and the other one is global citizenship. Perhaps we can start with a straightforward question. What is, in your opinion, global citizenship, and what is, in your opinion, global citizenship education?
That's a great question to begin, Emiliano. I think, for me, global citizenship is fundamentally how do we live as a singular species on a fragile planet.
Right.
Those are the kind of enduring questions that we need to think about. And the everyday way in which we live our lives, I think, implicates the way in which we act in the world and suggests a way of being, such that being a global citizen means being aware of diversity in your community, learning to live at peace with one's neighbors, and to appreciate the diversity that exists with people around you. I think as well as being concerned about the biosphere and the way in which we interact with the earth and its resources. Coupled with an awareness of how power operates on the planet. I think those represent a constellation of ideas that sit at the center of what global citizenship education is.
All right, and so you wrote a book on global citizenship education, and this is the book, Everyday Transcendence. So, two questions. The purpose of this book and why Everyday Transcendence?
So the purpose of the book was to illustrate the ways in which people that do education define and conceptualize and operationalize global citizenship education. So what does it mean on the ground within the context of Poland, in the context of the United States, in various places, in Canada. So the idea of the book in India and Thailand as well was to give people a sense, a grounded sense of what it looks like in particular communities. The idea I came up with as synthesizing these cases was the idea of everyday transcendence, which is the simplistic notion of realizing that we're all living a kind of banality of our daily lives, the day in and the day out, but in a way that's correspondent with trends that are happening in the world, forces that impinge upon us from a wider global society. So it's that kind of awareness of the simplicity of the everyday, coupled with this idea of oneself as being part of a larger body of people, a species, human beings, as well as living on a biosphere that is vast. So that sort of escalating notion of oneself, both in the immediacy and the broadest range of understanding.
Very interesting. All right, and you're obviously teaching a lot of students, and I guess you had several experiences by implementing concepts and principles of global citizenship. Two questions. The first one is, what is a global citizen? How would you define a global citizen, and how do you determine actually whether or not one of your students has this sort of disposition toward global citizenship? This is very interesting because you have a long experience.
I think for me it's recognition that it is an uncertain concept. It's an inherently ambiguous concept. And in some ways I think it's an aspirational concept. It's something that lies out in the future, and we're sort of building it and constructing it by means that we have available to us now without a true understanding of what a global society will look like. We have just really the leading edge of what a global society looks like. And so I think increasingly global citizenship ed as a kind of ideal space of thinking about what are we doing today, and how will that manifest in 50 to 100 years to create a different kind of society and a different kind of education. So I would say someone who's a global citizen is someone who's aware of their connectedness to the rest of the world, the ways in which their ideas and the materials that they live by are sourced from the planet and from distant places and also nearby places, as well as a deeper awareness of their own sort of multifaceted identity and the way that that identity is connected to others and different from others, and an enduring respect for the differences that allow human beings to flourish with different identities. I think that, coupled with a recognition of the global systems that are now in place, whether it's nation states, the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, or the forces of globalization that impinge upon us, whether we're aware of them or not. I think that kind of conception of global citizen recognizes the ways in which those points of connectivity are actually codified into law and practice. I think those are sort of a constellation or range of ideas that I think constitute global citizenship education.
So how would you define the three keywords? I know this is a difficult, hard question, but how would you define a global citizen by using three keywords?
I would say sustainability, I would say peace, and I would say awareness.
Awareness.
Yeah, in its very broadest sense, awareness.
Okay, so a global citizen will be someone who is promoting peace, is global aware, so has an understanding, as you mentioned, about the interconnectedness of our society and this world, and then eventually you also said Sustainability.
Right.
Okay.
Which I think speaks to both human development towards human flourishing.
Right.
Addressing real problems that the planet has.
Right.
I mean, we have 800 million people around the planet that don't have access to potable water.
Yes.
That is a material and real concern, and something that we should and can address.
Sure.
So I would say that is coupled with awareness, but also recognizes sustainability.
Right.
That sustainability can't occur, and we can't realize sustainability until people have access to the elements of life.
Yes, I fully agree. All right, so in the past we had global education. Nowadays the academic discourse is focusing on global citizenship education. So we have this additional notion of citizenship within the global and education. What is the meaning and why? What is the difference between the previous conception of global education and the actual one, global citizenship education?
I think what citizenship gives us is a language to talk about action.
Right.
Talk about agency.
Right.
So it speaks to a citizen as someone who's engaged in the community, cares about the community, is knowledgeable about the community, and through their works as a citizen changes the world around them. I think that's an important component. But there's another component, which is the identity of the citizen, meaning recognizing the ways in which you are connected to the wider world is inherent within citizenship.
Right.
So it's an identity or a piece of oneself that one takes on. I think that's the addition in a friendly sort of manner that global citizenship education offers, which is agency and identity of being connected to the world and knowing that your actions in that world have an effect.
Right. So in a way, you are saying that this is a framework, GC is a framework that brings hope toward in a direction that helps learners, students to take action in society in a way that is sustainable.
Sure, informed action in society, recognizing that we live in an imperfect world and our actions will be imperfect in that world. But still, that idea of hope, I think, is a lovely way to state it, which is this aspirational desire to make the world a better place for more people, for as many people as possible, and also for other non-sentient and sentient beings. I think that's an important piece that we often overlook, that it becomes very human-centered. This is also a planet that we share, with millions of other species, and we have to do so mindfully and in capacity of our thinking, encounter and recognize the inviolability of those species. I think that's an important piece too.
All right, very interesting. So two more questions and then we go toward the conclusion of the interview. One is that you are teaching here at Teachers College, Columbia University, a course on global citizenship education. Can you tell us a little bit about the course and how you worked towards the creation of such a valuable course?
So what we do in the course is I try to focus on the dissensus of views that exist around these three very controversial concepts in and of themselves, and then when they're synthesized. So globalization is a very contested area of discourse, from a neoliberal perspective or market-only perspective to a humanistic perspective to a transformational perspective. There's all kinds of views embedded within. So we do a lot of reading across the span of thinking to capture a sense of what the discourse is in globalization. Same is true for citizenship. It's a question of who belongs. Is it a result of your territory or of your blood, or how that has changed over the course of humanity? So that's also contested, and we look at some of those contestations and the ways in which citizenship has become redefined in a global era. So that's an important piece. The third piece, I think, is also very controversial. What does it mean to be educated? Does it mean having knowledge, knowing what to do with knowledge? having the kind of executive functioning skills about gaining more knowledge?
Sure.
Is it some combination of those?
Yes.
And then I think the last sort of area of complication is how do we synthesize some view of the total of what we're trying to do within global citizenship and education.
Right.
So that's the thrust of the course. Fun course to teach.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I really look forward to look into it and monitor some of your classes. But let me ask you this question that in a way is connected with your course on global citizenship education. What are some of the major experiences, maybe just one is okay, about you seeing some results of teaching this course onto your students? So in a way, I'd like to hear, if possible, obviously, an experience where you say, okay, these students really like the course and as a result did this in society, or decided to start a new career where it's actually committed to create some value in society. Or any sort of experience that could be encouraging for our viewers in terms of understanding practical implication of your teachings within the field of global citizenship education.
Yeah, one of the things we do in the course is there's an experiential component where students go in pairs into community activity or community space.
Yes.
That for one of the students they belong to it, and for the other student they're a visitor to it.
Right.
And so it might be a Seder meal if you're Jewish, or a Catholic mass. Or it might be going to a sporting event if you're someone who doesn't go to a sporting event, or attending a particular kind of restaurant.
Right.
And so students go to that and they both enter as the internal or insider person with a guide to another person who's an outsider, and then they flip roles.
I see.
And then they write about that experience and share that to class. And I found that to be a really compelling way to think about how we are all in some ways connected through our identities, but also discrete and different within them. And that activity really points that up well. So I think that's been a transformative experience for students engaged in it. In terms of how they use it, many of the people I work with are going to be educators in various communities.
Yes,
and so they translate that, I hope, then into the practice with their own students.
Right. Interesting. All right, and last question, and then we can conclude for today. And I thank you in advance for your precious time.
Sure.
You will be teaching an online course on sustainable development goals. Can you share with us a little bit of details about this innovative course and how it will develop?
Yes, the UN established the Millennial Development Goals in 2000, and now the follow-on to those from 2015 to 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals. And they constitute 17 goals that are arranged around 169, I believe, benchmarks for progress.
Yes.
Some of them are very specific, others are quite broad, but we thought it was a useful sort of starting point for teachers to begin and engage with. What does it mean to focus on infrastructure development, to focus on literacy and education, to focus on a quality education that includes issues like sustainability?
Yes.
So the intent of the course is to give teachers a familiarity with the goals, as well as some tools that they can use in their classroom to translate them into practices.
Right. Very interesting. All right, and to conclude, I'd like to ask you this question. What are, in your opinion, the major issues with the notion of GC, and what are in the future the ways where the actual notion of GC can really strongly contribute to the worldwide educational system? In other words, what you foresee for the future, what will be the future development on GC?
I think GCE has the potential to be that kind of meta-level curriculum or course that unifies a lot of other component pieces.
Yes.
I think it also has the potential to put front and center some of the serious global challenges that await us in the 21st century.
Yes.
While at the same time engaging young people in thinking about what it means to work to address issues, and to see the kind of problematic nature of what it means to address issues. So I think that's the kind of overarching frame that it represents. I don't think it's a course of study per se as much as it is an ethos and a way of thinking about a school culture and thinking about a community-based educational culture and the kind of things that they're trying to achieve. And so that's my hope. I see it very much as aspirational curriculum that we're trying to build from the pieces that we have available to us now.
Right. All right, thank you so much to Dr. William
Thank
Gaudelli.
you.
It was a pleasure discussing with you and being here at Columbia University Teachers College. Such a great pleasure to learn from you. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care.